I think it just speaks to, from an organization standpoint, for what we tried to set out a few years ago, overall what the goal baseball operations wise was, to have a team that, farm system, the foundation was built. We have a lot of talent up and down throughout the organization. You have a scouting department that does a good job bringing in talented young baseball players, and then a farm, farm system and a minor league coaching staff that develops those guys to the point that we have a major league team that has an exciting brand of baseball that people want to watch play. And I think when you have that going on, it enabled us to have players that other teams wanted, and ultimately I think. I think the way the major league team has played this year, I think that's it's energized, Ron, Peter, myself, and ultimately, I think it's all part of a plan. So it's never like an emotional decision or anything like that. But I think the team itself has shown that it's a good ball club. It's a fun team to watch. And when we had some trades that lined up with a farm system that was deep, and a young major league team that was deep, I think it enabled us to make some deals that we feel like are going to help us here over the course of not just the next couple of weeks, but really the next couple of years. No, I mean, honestly, I think this was not like, hey, we needed to line up 4 or 5 different moves. I think we sat down as a group, about a week ago. We talked about, 4 main areas from, a front of the rotation starter, looking at the bullpen mix, the current pen mix, and honestly, probably looking at somebody that could, with Kirby Yates potentially being down, for the year, looking at somebody that could fill that spot. Looking at the catching position, just trying to figure out exactly what we wanted to do there. And then, probably one more bat, from the left-hand side. And, I don't think any of us looked at it and said we had to fill, all of those needs. We weren't going to do one of the moves if we didn't do, the other 2 or 3 moves. But just as it started lining up, I think ultimately we felt we had deals that, we felt again like that were deals that helped us in the short term. But more importantly, I think in each of those cases, they're deals that we feel like help us, for the next month or so, and also help us in the next couple of years. And obviously you've got to give up good players and good talent. We feel like we did that. We're going to give up, there are players that are going to go out there and be good major league players. We've done that in the past, in certain deals. But we like the guys we got back, and we like the mix of guys that we can add to a really exciting team at the major league level this year.
Why are you confident that you bringing in 2 new pitchers in the middle of the season is going to work out?
I think, I think probably in part due to what we think, from Austin Nola and with Jason. I think like you have guys that are in terms of what we know, very intelligent, very smart, a lot of experience, guys that have in Jason's case caught in the big leagues for a long time, former first round pick, been on great teams. With Austin, everything we've heard in terms of him making the conversion to the catcher spot. One of the more intelligent guys in that in the game. So I think they're wired the right way. I think they've caught and know how to handle a staff, and a lot of confidence with Larry Rothschild, with Jace. For everybody to get on the same page, get up to speed, and just belief in the individuals that are down there. So again, anytime you make a move, there's always some risk factor about kind of upsetting the chemistry, the dynamic, the personalities that are there. But honestly, I just have a lot of faith in our staff, our pitching staff, our coaching staff, and definitely in the 2 guys that we acquired. And, they were very supportive. So, maybe one of the first times that maybe under budget from what Ron and Peter gave us. So, probably get them back on the back end on that thing and on something else, maybe in the draft or somewhere down the road. But, I think definitely cognizant of the short term, and we're always looking at how it fits into the payroll for next year and the next couple of years. So, I think with, getting done with the moves, you look up and Austin Nola, we have a catcher that's under control for 5 years. A guy that, will look up and potentially have a young catcher or a catcher that's at least young in terms of service time and from a pace structure standpoint. A young shortstop, young second baseman, a young center fielder. So we're strong up the middle. And I think the fact that they're quality players and doing it in the 0 to 3 status time enables us to do some other things that we've been able to take advantage of.
Hey, AJ, I'm wondering, last year at this time, if you were sitting in second place, you might be making deals with the idea that I might be getting into a one-game playoff, and how much do I give up for that? How much does that change the scenario that everybody's hitting into a best of three as long as you get in the playoffs, no matter where you finish?
Yeah, for us, not that much. I think everybody does it a little bit different. I know being on the, making calls from the trade deadline in the last few years and since the wild card playoff, I've heard a lot of comments from different teams about, what is the value of a one game playoff. And, for us, like, honestly, I think we just try to evaluate where our team is at and, whether it's a one game playoff or a 3-game situation. Playoffs are, it's always a short series. You never know what's going to happen in a short series. I don't think it affected, our decisions and what we thought about over the course of the last, few days. I think if it was a one game playoff situation, I think we would have been in a similar spot in terms of making the moves. And I think that's because we're looking at our club and, looking at areas that fit for both the short term and also some guys that fit for down the road. So in this case, I could just speak for us. It didn't really affect it too much. I do know in the game, in the industry, I think maybe that did lead to some of the activity because that's been some of the mindset with some of the clubs we've talked to in the last few years about how much do we really want to go in when it's just a one game playoff versus, having a little bit longer series that can continue your season. I think it just speaks to the confidence we have in Jace and his coaching staff and, the leadership on the team. I think that a lot of belief in those guys. I think there's a real collective focus to get this team to the playoffs and, hopefully do damage in the playoffs. And, I think I'm not in Colorado, but just the sense I get from, over the phone, conference calls, feedback is just really a lot of excitement. And I think that just speaks again, we've got strong leadership, in the clubhouse, mainly from the players, whereas it's most important. But, again, Jace has been throwing a lot of things here in the last 6 or 7 months as a rookie manager, having 4 or 5 new faces that are really talented and wired in a good way. That's probably the least of his concerns at this point. So I think he'll do a good job blending the new faces in with the current group here over the course of the next few weeks.
Hi, AJ. Did your ownership group send a private jet to pick up all these different players that you acquired? And also, as it relates to Mike Clevinger, I know when he had the incident with the protocols, his teammates called it a betrayal of their trust. Was this something that you had to address specifically with your own players and coaches?
Yeah, I think in terms of the travel, it's different than a normal year where we would, you just get somebody on a commercial flight. And, so I know Fred Yeoman and Josh Stein and TJ Lucia, they did a great job. And each situation is a little bit different in terms of where the players were. I think a very unique situation, for example, with Jason Castro and Austin Nola. I don't know if it's honestly like maybe in the history of baseball to have 2 catchers, opposing teams playing in the same city. The same team trades for them. They got I believe car service down to Carlsbad and Ron Fowler on his plane and flown into Colorado today. So you got 2 catchers from 2 different teams on the same flight, hopefully exchanging notes on our pitching staff and catching our pitchers being in for the game. Each situation was a little bit different. And again, I just think speaks to 2020, kind of like, using our resources, trying to make the best decisions possible, keeping people safe and healthy, following protocols. I think that's all part of it. And, we've got a group that's pretty creative in terms of, the best way to handle that. And in terms of with Mike Clevinger and, the situation there in Cleveland and in Chicago. I think the biggest thing, and we spent a lot of time talking about it as a group. Making sure that everybody was, not okay with it, but just understanding like what the dynamic was and doing our homework. I think the biggest thing for us is, I think we all we make mistakes, and I've made a ton of mistakes, and as a group, it's just like understand that you learn from those mistakes and, basically you own up to it. And, I know that was the part of the deal for him that, right out of the gate, in terms of, he came out and said he wished he would have said, had a different response, right out of the situation when I think one of his teammates got sent home. Ultimately, we don't think it's going to happen again. And, he's apologetic for it. And, I think from our situation, we're learning from it as a group. I know he did. And, I think we're looking forward to putting it in the background and, getting him off to a good start here in San Diego.
AJ, I know you've been working really hard for a lot of years to get to this kind of point where you can really go all in. How close now do you think you are to having that kind of team that can challenge the Dodgers, frankly, in this division year after year? They've been the powerhouse here for a long time, obviously. You think you're at that point now where you can sustain a winning, contending kind of team?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the goal for every team, every organization is, it's hard enough to put something together where you can win for one season or two, but to have a team that can extend that run and do it over the course of, 5+ years, that takes, that's when it speaks to a real organization. I think, obviously looking at the Dodgers, they've done it as well as anybody here over the course of the last decade or so. And yeah, I think, told Andrew the other day, I think that actually disappointed them because I thought they were going to go about 50-10 this year, so they may be underachieving. But they've got a great team. There are other really good teams in the National League. I think we've they clearly have set the bar, and I think from our standpoint, we've just done a lot of focusing on ourselves and what we need to do to be an organization and a team that could sustain year in, year out, be competitive year in, year out. Internally, we kind of targeted this 2020 season a few years ago as a year that we wanted to hopefully start, a run of years where every single season we can be competitive and a team that we expect to play deep into October. So far it's been a good month or so, or a good month plus in the season. But I think we understand there's a lot of baseball left to be played this year. We got a lot of stuff in front of us. We've got some new faces we got to blend in, but I think that's the goal, is to have a team that year in, year out is competitive, and hopefully this year's the start of something good for us.